Thank you, everyone, for joining us at Coaches for Good. We're really excited to have you here. This is our first anniversary celebration, and it's amazing. We were just talking a little bit earlier about how when we first started Coaches for Good, we were thinking of creating a community within Dubai. And as we look around at everyone who's joined us today, we have Europe, we have the US, we have all across the Middle East. We've got Africa. We've got Asia as well. So it's amazing how quickly we've turned into a global organization. We're really excited to have Madeleine Homan Blanchard with us today. She is the chief coaching architect of the Ken Blanchard Companies and is a co-founder of the Blanchard Coaching Services. She's the co-creator of the coaching management system, which is Blanchard's proprietary software designed to help deliver coaching on large-scale organizations. She has more than 30 years of experience in the coaching profession and has a deep understanding of working with organizations to leverage professional coaching, teach coaching skills to leaders, and create a coaching culture. Madeline has co-authored a number of books, including Leverage Your Best, Ditch the Rest, The Coaching Secrets Top Executives Depend On, amongst a bunch of other books as well. So she's a pioneer in the coaching profession. She actually started coaching before coaching was coaching. She was a trainer and founding advisory board member of Coach University and is a founding board member of the International Coach Federation, where she served for 6 years. She's a certified mentor coach, a certified master coach, and a graduate of Coach University. She has received her bachelor's degree in theater and performance studies from Georgetown University, holds a Master of Science degree in Neuro Leadership from the University of Middlesex. She's a passionate coach and an ardent reader and has raised 4 children, lives in Southern California with her husband and her 3 Labradors. I am not only pleased to have Madeline with us, I'm certainly proud to have Madeline as a friend of mine. She's an amazing individual, and I'm so glad that she could join us here today. So, Madeline, I will turn.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis. I just have a few slides just to keep us a little bit organized. I'm thrilled to be here. I very much appreciate the invitation. Is there anything more fun, right, than talking about your own journey? And as coaches, I'm sure you know, I never actually get to talk about myself. When we started the ICF, one of our kind of original goals was to work in the public and in the marketplace to really make coaching a profession. And I remember about, it might have been around 8-9 years ago, I thought, oh, wow, we achieved our goal. And I thought, okay, now what? And looking at the way things are today, you wouldn't think it'd be that big of a deal, but it really was, because when we first started, I would tell people what I did for a living and they'd say, oh, what sport? Right? So we really have come an awful long way. So Dennis invited me to come and be with you a while back. And of course, I've been thinking about, oh my gosh, what are the things that I can share that would really make a difference? And it was so good, Dennis, that you asked everyone, what they're here for. And so I was looking in the chat, and you're all, it seems, very experienced coaches, which is great. So that helps to kind of inform the angle of that I'll take for today. So here's what I know for sure. What I know for sure is that the more I learn, the less I know. And I heard that about 5 times from 5 different places in the last 10 days. And I thought, well, that's about right. That's how it feels. But I had an experience, January 2020. I thought, okay, I'm starting a new job. lots of big transitions. I'm going to hire my own coach. And I hired a coach and I paid $25,000, which is a lot of money, right? And it's certainly what we charge, certainly senior executives and C-suite executives. So I thought, okay, it's good for me to have the experience of paying that kind of money. And my company split it with me. So that was nice. And then, of course, we all know what happened in March of 2020. So all of my goals flew out the window. And, but I still ended up working with the coach. And I have to say, at the end of it, I wasn't disappointed. Okay, but I had to ask myself, since I paid, and in March of 2020, everyone's salaries were cut. My income essentially was cut by 60%, all things considered. And so that money, it pinched. It really, I had to put some of it on a credit card. It wasn't nothing. So I had to ask myself, wow, do I feel like that was the best possible use of that money? And it was a really good moment for me because the answer was no. And then I had to ask myself, okay, what would have made that feel worth it? It was $12,500 at the end of the day. And believe me, our CEO, three-quarters of the way into 2020 was like, what is this? Why are we paying for this? And of course, no one ever would have asked if the world had been normal. But I really felt like my whole coaching career went in this big circle, and that last experience working with a, MCC, very high value coach kind of made me go back to basics. And it was a really interesting, and I'm actually currently working on an article, hopefully for Choice, or I don't know who will pick it up, but about, I worked with a really expensive master certified coach, and this is what I learned about it. Now I've cleared it with that coach, by the way. I had to go back to that coach and kind of have it was not a comfortable conversation, because at the very end she said, do you have any feedback for me? Is there anything I could have done differently? And I said, no, it was great, blah, 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 thinking all the while, I do have feedback, but I'm not quite sure what it is yet. So I had to spend about 9 months thinking about it, because that's how I roll. And we had the hard conversation, and it was, she is a great coach. So she listened really well, and I think she got value from it as well. But I thought today I might start with topics that always come up in these kinds of conversations with coaches, regardless of level. And that is, how do you attract more clients? How do you build your business? And how do you find your niche? Now, of course, there's always an argument about, is it niche or is it niche? And the answer is, I have no idea, but I've gone with niche. And what I've noticed over the years is that people tend to start with their niche in their area of expertise. So I started with actors and performers, and then I expanded to artists and single practitioners, and moved on to inventors and people who were trying to really create their brand in their marketplace. And then I moved into corporate work. I kind of walked in sideways to that, and ended up spending the last 25 years working in the corporate marketplace. But when I had to ask myself, starting with my expertise as performers, because that had been my life. And then I kept expanding. I was like, well, what do all these people have in common? And that's how I figured out what my niche was, is I realized that across the board, my clients had almost nothing in common except that they were all creative geniuses. And I defined creative geniuses using Kant's definition of someone who's creating new ideas or new things, manifesting the new, that didn't exist before. So a lot of people argue that your niche is the thing you're passionate about. But then it turned out I didn't feel that I really attracted the clients who were that interested in the stuff that I was passionate about. So I didn't feel that that particular advice was relevant for me. I'm not saying it can't work for you, okay? But at the end of the day, I think your niche is ultimately what you're attracting. So who are the people you're attracting? And that's how I got to creative geniuses, is that somehow, for whatever reason, that's what I attracted. And it helped me to start my first business, which was straight line coaching, because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That was my tagline. And of course, as we know, all coaching journeys tend to be these zigzagging, curly Q journeys, but that's kind of the way I went at it. And to this day, it's still the kind of client I do my best work with. And it's still when I do chemistry calls with potential clients, those are the ones who end up choosing me. So I think you really have to look at what you attract. And I love this slide. A good friend gave me this card years ago, and I had it up on my bulletin board, and now it's actually part of my brand. Because if I do a chemistry call or a potential, are we the right fit kind of call, if people don't think I'm funny, it's just not going to work. And if they're not cracking me up, it's not going to work. And that's just kind of my temperature gauge. And I think, people, a lot of coaches are like, well, how do I figure out my brand? How do you market? And I really want to have a coaching business, but I hate marketing myself. I've just heard that so many times over the years. And it's like, no, you have to market yourself. You have to put yourself out there. You have to show up at events. You have to meet people. You have to tell people what you do for a living. And don't talk about coaching. Just say, if you don't understand what coaching is, let me coach you for 5 minutes. What's a pebble in your shoe that you haven't been able to get out? And I'm just going to coach you for 5 minutes, and you're going to totally get what coaching is. I found that if you actually try to describe what coaching is, forget it. It just doesn't work. And hopefully you can send them to your website or a website or something so people can get the detail of how it works, what you get out of it, and all that stuff. But trying to describe that, especially at a wedding or a cocktail party, which is where I got all of my initial clients, right? People ask me, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm a coach. And they'd say, what sport? And I'd say, no, I just help people get it together. And every single person said, well, I need that. And I said, yeah, you probably could use it. And they say, well, how does it work? I'm like, okay. So what's something that's keeping you up at night that you haven't been able to make headway on, that's really, you feel like you've tried everything, but you haven't made, the kind of progress that you want to make. And we'd have a 5-minute conversation. And it's kind of tricky because it leaves them wanting more. Because honestly, nobody listens to people. Nobody listens to you, to me, to us. I don't talk to people on airplanes anymore because, like everyone on this call today, listening is my superpower. And it's like a drug. And once people start talking, they can't stop. And I'm like, I'd really like to read my book now, but no. So I just don't even go there. But actually, meeting people on airplanes is a phenomenal marketing opportunity. So I do encourage you that if you are building your business, that's a great place to do it. So the big thing I learned from working with that super, high-priced master certified coach, this is almost 2 years ago now, is something Thomas Leonard said way back when we started CoachU in 1992, is the best way to retain your clients once you do have them and have them refer to you, which is your number one marketing tool after you've started to build, right, is to ask for the referrals, is to deliver plus one service. So what does that mean? Well, everybody has to figure out for themselves, but I'll tell you what it meant for me. What I realized is that as a coach, I take notes upon notes upon notes, and I'm old school. Now I have a fantasy that I'm going to get one of those Apple pens and use my iPad and blah, 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 and maybe someday that'll happen. Maybe it won't. But what I found is that when I was the client, I couldn't take notes. I would have like random words, drawings, doodles, but mainly I was so busy thinking that I couldn't take notes for myself. And even though my coach would do the very classic and very useful, and I recommend it, what are you taking away from this session? And I would say it, and then I would go on to the next thing. I'm like all my clients, and probably like your clients, their coaching session is jammed in between getting the kids off to school and doing their full-time job, right? Which is a schmillion hours a week for most people these days. And I would forget. It would get buried under all the rest of the noise and the static. So what I started doing is after every single coaching session, every single client, I would take these notes and I would turn them into an email and I would warn them, this isn't pretty, it's not formal, there will be spelling errors, it won't be grammatically correct, it's super casual, but it's better for you to have these notes than for them to be perfect. And I would send them off. And what I noticed, and maybe Dennis, if you can see the chat, it would be, you could tell me who does that now?
Let's see. I don't see anyone on the chat yet, but I know from my own experience, Sarah saying yes that she does. Maya says a couple of times so far. With my own personal experience, what I do is I usually summarize what we've talked about during the session. And then I'll also reiterate what are the things that they committed they're going to be doing between now and
with
the next.
The homework, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Your commitments to action.
Yeah.
Yes.
What will they be experimenting on? And then follow up. We'll see each other during our next session. So I kind of do those all in one. It helps me as well.
Right. That's the thing. And then I started to take the goals and put them in a box. So it was just boom, cut and paste. Now, of course, for all of our Blanchard work, we use this coaching.com system. What I found, of course, is clients don't love using yet another platform. So I'm still using the email with a lot of them, but I still put it into the platform anyway. But I would put the goals, our original goals, in the notes, and I would connect everything we talked about back to the goals. And I would also I would cut and paste into a long Word document, and I would go back and pick up a stitch from previous conversations about actions they'd committed to take, even if it was just something they said they were going to think about or whatever. Because as you know, clients come to calls and they're like, oh, I have a situation I need to deal with on this call. That's what I want to use this session for today. And how does that get connected back to the thing you said you were going to accomplish together at the beginning? So that's kind of how I figured out how to do it. And the thing I noticed is clients started to say, oh, put that in the notes, will you? Put that in the notes, will you? And those things that the client said, oh, put that in the notes, that becomes the headline from the session. Because I think one of the great values of coaching for people is so many people are extroverted thinkers. Even if they're introverts, they're extroverted thinkers. And they don't even know what they're thinking until it comes out of their mouth. So this wisdom, their wisdom, just pops out of their mouth. The other thing I found that makes the notes so useful, especially for me, is that all the questions I have, all the brilliant ideas, right? All my advice that I'm not giving, if it's still relevant by the time I write up the notes, I can add those in. Here's an idea we didn't have time to get to. Here's a question that I'm just thinking now as I write up the notes. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's time consuming. And guess what? You're right. And I've been thinking, can we ask our coaches who work with us through the Ken Blanchard Companies to do this and make it a standard of excellence? And I really want to do it. And I know I'm going to get pushback. And the pushback will be, do I get paid for that extra time? And guess what? The answer is, no, because I don't. And I think some people will do it and some people won't. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. But if you are in your own practice and you are building your business, that is an example of adding that +1 service. And I'm telling you, it has created coaching journeys for people that are so much more impactful. So much more impactful. Because before you'd kind of get to the end of the 6 months or the 9 months or whatever it was, and people would be like, we'd ask the question, right? We send a reflection form. What did you learn? What are you doing differently? What is the potential financial impact of the changes you've made because of your coaching? All that stuff. And you know what? They don't know. They might, the super analytical people might connect the dots, but mostly they don't. So I started telling my colleague about this, Diana Urbina. She now runs our coaching services department. I no longer manage people. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I managed people for 32 years. I'd much rather just coach them. But I was telling her about this, and she said, "Oh, I worked with a Hudson coach. That's the Frederick Hudson Institute. They're here in Southern California." She said, "I walked into my coach's office for my last session." This is back when, we got together occasionally. And her office was covered with sticky flip charts that was a map of where I started and everything that I had done and where I landed. And it was incredibly powerful for me. That's what she said. And I got to tell you, if you're wanting to charge a lot of money and you're wanting people to walk away from their coaching feeling like that was worth the money, I have found that that is one of the most powerful ways to make sure that that happens. A, that was worth the money. B, I'm going to refer my friends. Okay. The other thing I learned, and I know this is really obvious, but I have a really hard time with it. Because, as a manager of people, I would tell new employees, I don't do birthdays. I just don't. I don't do my own birthday. I'm good for the occasional grand gesture, but I'm not going to do birthdays because that kind of day-to-day tactical remembering stuff, I hate it. But, and this hurt, I had a client who went to do her U.S. citizen she had to take a test and do an interview. And it was on Tuesday. And I knew it was on Tuesday. And I meant to text her saying, good luck today. And then, how did it go? And I thought of it and I didn't do it. And it meant something to her. And it would have meant something if I had done it. It would have just showed that I cared. And I did care, but I didn't show it. And that was it was a snap of a rubber band on my wrist. It pained me that I had failed in that very tiny way. So I think if we can look for and find ways to just show that we care and that we're paying attention, the way we do with our kids, the way we do with our best friends, the way we do with our spouses, and not to go overboard, right? We're not going to become codependent with our clients. But I think if a person's dog had to be rushed to the ER, the text the next day saying, how's Rover? It just makes that different. And I think those are two examples of plus one. And I really encourage you to find those ways that work for you, that are authentic for you, right? I'm not going to do birthdays. I get birthday cards from my dentist. And honestly, it just annoys me. Because you don't even know me. And frankly, I'm not that excited about being in my 60s. So in the trash can, that card goes. But okay, so what makes sense to you? And Dennis, hopefully, if I ask for you to write in the chat, what are the ways that you have found to deliver that plus one that doesn't cost you, right? We're not giving big gifts, or maybe we are. I send books. I like to do that with a handwritten note when people first start. And I do that for my Blanchard clients. And I think we should do it for all Blanchard clients, but I haven't been able to make that happen. Blah, blah, blah. So what is your way? What are you seeing, Dennis? Anything fun?
So Gabby says that she'll follow up after a major milestone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Great. Congratulations. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I do is I always keep track of the things that people are doing on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and then I'll just send them a quick message just to say congratulations, best of luck in your new promotion or whatever it is, just to kind of let them know I am thinking about you. It's amazing how just little things like that
Yeah.
make a big difference. John is saying that it's to make sure that he celebrates the wins as well. Dima saying responding positively to clients, even if it was after a long time, through Facebook or through Instagram. Maya saying in between session messages when they feel like sharing more after the session, for example. Sarah will send 3 to 4 books helping on aspects of their journey in the engagement. So yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what you had said earlier when you get pushback from coaches who say, well, do I get paid for this? If I don't get paid, I'm not doing it. I think it's these types of things that you do that bring the payment anyway. So you don't know who they're going to refer you to just because you've done something as simple as that. Not everything that we do has to be for money. It could be for a greater good as well. Jennifer is saying that she'll send out weekly motivational quotes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Those are all great ideas.
Doing lunch with them, just talking in an informal environment. That's something that Nedco says he does.
Yeah. Lovely. That's lovely. I think those are all great ideas. And I think the more you can find ways to do that, the better off you'll be. And I think, but that whole experience with starting to do those notes, honestly, that has made the biggest difference for me. And the fact that happened after 30 years coaching people really made me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm back at the beginning. Yeah, because I didn't do that at the beginning. Well, we didn't have email when I started, if you can believe it. When we started CoachU, we used, get ready for it, fax and phone bridges. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk briefly about, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, to be fair. But there's still a conversation out there in the marketplace of what is coaching even? What does a coach really do? Right? And there are a million answers. And I've been using the metaphor as coaching as a Swiss Army knife, right? You're going to pull out the right tool at the right time for whatever needs to happen for the client. But I kind of stumbled over this idea that the coach is a map maker. And it's not making a map from nothing, right? It's making a map for the client of where they've been, where they are now, and where they're going. And the route or routes that they have taken, they could take, they can take. And for some people, that's very visual. For others, it's not. But when my colleague Diana walked into her coach's office and saw all those flip charts, she said it literally doubled the value for her of the coaching. And I'm a big fan of maps. My daughter sees herself as the blue dot on a Google map. She's got an amazing sense of direction. I don't have that. But I think that sense of helping the client see themselves as the blue dot on their map is so compelling because it grounds them. The other, and this is used a lot, so this won't be news to you, is this idea of the lamplighter, right? We're holding up the lamp or we're holding the flashlight and pointing it at the dark corners and the places they need to look. And that's a more obvious one, but it's true. I also think the coach is the storyteller. They're not telling their story or even other people's stories. They're helping the client to craft their own story. And I literally just stumbled over this last night. I'm going to show you a picture on my phone. You're not going to be able to really see it. In fact, that's not working at all. So I'm not going to do that. It's an ad. It was in the New Yorker magazine for a Master's of Science program, which of course I want to enroll in immediately. I'm not going to. But they also have a certificate of professional achievement. Okay, for narrative medicine. I've never seen this before. I've never seen it. Narrative medicine is an interdisciplinary field that brings powerful narrative skills of radical listening and creativities from the humanities and the arts to address the needs of all who seek and deliver healthcare.
Wow.
Okay, that is blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind. Because I think, and a little coaching tool, I don't use it all the time, but I use it when I think it's going to really make a difference for the client, is at the beginning of the coaching, I'll ask them to write the story of their lives from the point of view of the pain, the disappointment, the mistakes, and focus on those of their story. And then again, to write the story of their life through the lens of what they've learned, the negative experiences that they've reinterpreted now as positive, like, wow, that was painful, but if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened, etc. And it's using that concept of narrative. And Brene Brown talks about this, right? What story are you telling yourself? And how can we change that story? And I just think there's something so powerful in it. And about 15 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, Atul Gawande wrote an article in the New Yorker that ended up becoming the book on being mortal. I don't know if any of you are aware of this book. To me, it is the Bible about helping people manage their own end of life or helping people who are traveling that end of life journey with loved ones. And it blew my mind. And I got on the phone with Tony Klingmeyer, who's one of our coaches at Blanchard and a master certified coach. He pinged me. We pinged each other at the same time because he was like, oh my God, this is coaching. And it was flipping the Western medicine, keep people alive at all costs, to how do we create a narrative, ask the questions, and have the courage to create the end of life the way we want it to be. And I've met a lot of people who work in hospice who are like, wait a minute, I need this coach approach thing. the thing you do with people. I need those skills and that process and that mindset as a hospice worker. So I feel like this whole idea of narrative medicine and helping people write their stories as they go and reinterpret their stories up until now, going through hard things, and the fact that it's interdisciplinary, which I think is also true of coaching, right? We bring in business, strategy, the arts. I went and got a neuroscience degree, which is also blew my mind, because telling people how the brain works to convince them to do things they don't think will matter. Boy, has that been useful, right? So I think the whole notion of story, if you haven't thought about that until now, you might think about it. And if you have been using it, I say, keep going, keep developing that. I think memory keepers. So this whole idea of what were the goals we started out with, and how does what you're doing today, 6 months later, apply to those goals? And we're the ones who can remember when a client just says one time, it's really important to me, whatever it is. So that 3 months later, we can say back, well, I remember you said, that this thing is really important to you. And you know what? That blows people's minds. Whether they recognize it or not, there's something there like, wow, this person is really paying attention. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing is that I think of us as weavers, right? The clients give us this big ball of thread at the beginning, and we help them pull out all the threads and weave them together into a fabric that makes sense and is consistent and is useful to them, and that they can take as almost a coat or a shawl moving forward. I was in Hawaii when I was thinking about this, and those waves, they're not nothing. It's rough. Is use your intuition and be aware of the danger zones, because there are danger zones working with clients, right? What's the biggest one? Now, I'm a slow learner, so I had to learn this not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the third time was so painful, I actually had to give money back. It was the first time I'd ever done that in 30 years of coaching. I wrote a check for $10,000 and I sent it to my former client. She fired me. I'm like experiencing the pain. And I knew it. The conversation where she fired me, I was prepared to actually fire her. Not, just say, this isn't working. We need to take a step back. And when she hired me, brilliant, incredibly accomplished person, right? So sexy to me. It's like, oh, I want to work with this person because she's so cool. And she told me the story of how many coaches she'd already worked with, and that no one was quite good enough for her. And all the clients that she'd fired, all the coaches that she'd fired. And I know I can see some of you laughing and smiling. I knew it. She told me. She basically told me that she was going to fire me. People tell you everything you need to know about themselves if we only just listen. And the number one thing, the red flag, the danger zone, is our egos. And in my case, it was I'm the best coach in the world, even though Marshall Goldsmith and now Peter Bregman are claiming that they're the best coaches in the world. And you know what? There are a lot of us, and I'm sure some of you on this call, can have that claim. And I was like, I'm going to be the person who changes this person's mind, and I'm going to be the person who's good enough for her. So people tell you everything you need to know. Just listen. So that's my last little nugget. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Madeline. The insight that you have, the willingness to share the experiences that didn't go so great from a coaching perspective, I think it's refreshing to hear someone as successful as you has experienced those things as well. And I think it just kind of reminds us all, none of us are perfect. We're all learning, but don't be afraid to make mistakes or be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to experiment and learn from it and move forward. Insights were amazing. Thank you very much, Madeline, for joining us today. For everyone who's on the phone, we have some exciting input or some exciting feedback and some exciting news to share with you about this coaching project that is going to be kicking off soon. But before we get into that, do we have any last questions for Madeline that or burning that you want to ask before we let her get on with her very busy day in California?
Just to reiterate, Dennis, I think what you said, Madeline, thank you so much. Specifically at the end, that is, I think, really nice. I think we all want to be the hero, don't we? We all think we can do it, we can pull it off. So I think a lot of takeaways from what you explained. Also, that last point about, just trust your gut sometimes is very valuable. So thank you so much for your time today. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sarah.
So, Madeline, if you'd like to stay on, you can stay on. We're going to share details on this coaching project, or if you'd like to leave, we'll let you make the choice of what you'd like to do.
Well, I have a 10 o'clock, so I am going to jump off.
All right.
Thank you very much. I put my email in the chat if you have any questions or you want to contact me in any way.
All right. Thank you so much, Madeline. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. I think you have to make me host again.
Yeah.
All right. So, for the exciting news about our coaching project, as quite a few of you know, about a month and a half or so ago, we sent out a message to people asking them if they were interested in participating in this coaching project with the UAE government. The project is moving forward. They're in the last bits of signing the terms and conditions and everything. What they've come back, though, with is rather than an initial 1,000 people that they wanted to have go through 6 sessions of coaching, one-on-one coaching, they've now increased that to 10,000 people. That will be either fresh graduates from high school or fresh graduates from university. The coaching will be focused around prepping these people to move into the corporate world. And basically what we'll do is we'll be working in teams of, or we'll be doing this in waves. So the first wave that's going to come through will be 2,500 people. Within that 2,500 people, what we'll do is initial coaching, chemistry calls with them, and just to get an assessment of whether they're open for coaching. And then those who are open for coaching will then move forward into the next area where we'll identify coaches for them. The coaching is being paid, but I do want to just reiterate to everyone that this is not going to be a project where you're going to get rich. This is a project where if you need coaching hours that give you your credentialing towards either ACC, PCC, or whatever that is, rather than doing that where so many coaches do that with other coaches, this is an opportunity to actually practice your coaching with real clients, and not only expose them to the power of coaching, but being exposed to an organization that will be using coaches in the future as well. So what we're doing is we're asking everyone to, again, commit to these hours that we're going to be coaching these people. We're looking at the timeline starting in January, February of next year. They're going through an assessment right now. And then what we'll do is we'll bring everyone together. We'll put them onto a coaching platform with the partner that we're working with in Dubai. And it's through that platform that everything will be it'll be coordinated through them. So any of the scheduling that's done, all of the payments will be done directly through them. Any of the notes that you take or things like that will all be through that platform. And they'll actually organize a training so that you learn how to use that platform. I have used their platform. It's extremely easy to use, very straightforward and simple. But that's where we are at this point. So just wanted to reconfirm to everyone, for those of you who haven't worked on corporate projects before, usually very big projects like this take months and months and months and months and months for them to actually get everything together. This one is actually expedited quite a bit. It may not seem like it at this point, but for the size of this project, they've expedited it quite a bit. So we're anticipating that the contract will be signed next week. Coaches for Good is the only partner that they're going to be, this company will be partnering with, and we're reaching out to all of the ICF organizations, basically everywhere, to find coaches who are interested in participating. So if you haven't yet stated your interest or submitted your CV to us, please send an email to info@coachesforgood.com. And just leave us with your CV. Let us know how many hours you can commit to. Overall, we anticipate that this project is going to last for about 18 months. Each of the different waves will last for about 3 months. And again, we'll have about 1,000 people going through one-on-one coaching, 6 sessions within those 3 months. So that's 6,000 hours every quarter that will be available for you to get your hours on. And Sarah, I just saw the look on your face. I was a little shocked as well when they said growing from 1,000 people up to 10,000 people. I think it's an incredible example of how when we come together as a full community, we can create opportunities that are far beyond what any of us are capable of doing on our own. There's no way that any of us has the bandwidth to provide 10,000 people, basically 60,000 hours of coaching over an 18-month period. But if we can get a group of people together, we can accomplish that. So we're excited for the opportunity. There's actually a couple of other opportunities that we're looking at as well. And the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I clarified was initially what started out is they were only looking for Arabic speaking coaches. They're now looking for Arabic and English speaking coaches. All of the coaching will be done online. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be based in the UAE in order to participate in this coaching. It's going to be open to coaches everywhere. So again, if you are interested, just send us an email at info@coachesforgood.com and let us know. Do you have any questions that we can answer for you?
I was just thinking a bit just strategically, Dennis. And sorry, I didn't catch the organisation at the start, but this is not a major opportunity here for a certain corporate to get involved and actually sponsor cohorts of this, because their interest is to get the best of the best grads. Is there not some interesting ways of looking at this in terms of partnership and actually getting it funding so that you get more coaches? Because there's probably, with the best will in the world, bound to be something of a mismatch between the amount of resource you need right now and the amount.
Yeah. So we do have the UAE government is identifying companies that they're partnering with to do this, because this is a massive initiative that they're looking at doing. But we're going to be expanding that even further. So we will be getting other companies involved as well. Again, I think the more successful this is, the more successful it is for all of us as well. So I think it's a great opportunity. And Dima, you have your hand up.
Yes. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Can you please send us an email, because I'm the president of ICF Jordan chapter, and my colleagues who already submitted and applied for this opportunity, sometimes they ask, so I need some sort of a formal reply.
Okay.
So
we'll draft something and we'll send it out.
Just one paragraph would be fine.
Okay, great. And then if you've got more coaches who want to join, I know that we had a cutoff back in September, but that was when we were only doing 1,000 people. Now we're doing 10,000 people. So we are looking for more coaches that can join us as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Along the same line, actually, I mean, I'm part of a chapter here in Ireland as well. I know that might be interested in it, and likewise, actually, a training company that are actually just training coaches. Are those opportunity or possible opportunities that like to involve them as well, or is there a limit on involved?
Yeah, and I think ideally the coaches that are probably going to be most interested are the ones that are looking for those hours where they can get their credential.
Yep.
Which most likely are going to be ones that have just they've just graduated. They're looking for those hours and they're looking for opportunities to get them. It's kind of like that chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
When you first finish coaching, you're like, okay, well, I need the hours, but how do I get the clients? We're providing the chicken, the egg, and the nest for you, where all you have to do is go in and feed the chickens, and they're going to continue laying eggs for you so that you can get all of the hours that you want. Yeah, we'll reach out there as well. Again, what they'll do is there will be, the way that the government wants to approach it is they're going to ask people which language they want to be coached in, Arabic, English, or if it doesn't make a difference to them, or if they have no preference. And then the company that we are partnering with is called NAC. They're the ones, they have the tool that we'll all be using for actually administering, and NAC will be paying you all for these sessions. And I completely lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. That's how excited I am about this program. Everything will work through them, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're feeding the coaches in, and then the more coaches that we have, going back to the language, they will then organize based on preference. If there are Arabic speaking coaches and they have clients that only wants an Arabic speaking coach, then they'll assign them there. If there are ones that only want English speaking, we'll assign them there. And if there's ones who have no preference, then we'll look at who is available and we can assign them that way. I think that's the only way that we could really realistically manage this project of that size. There was another question that came through. Do you know by chance if this is an isolated project or this is part of a program which is associated with other soft skills and technical skills development? I think it's part of a bigger project. I know that the coaching part, there's also an assessment that they're doing. There will be some, and I don't know how to use the term properly because it's not group coaching or team coaching, but it are groups of people, of about 10 people that they'll have sessions for them as well that they're looking for coaches in as well. So you have the opportunity for doing one-on-one coaching and then doing a larger group of people as well. But I know that this project itself is linked with a couple of other things, and I think it's just the beginning of some other projects. I think as more people and more organizations start to hear about this, they'll see the value in it and they'll want to get involved as well. And it just goes back to reaffirm why we have this community of Coaches for Good, which is to collaborate together and co-create opportunities. Let's see, a couple more messages. Okay. Just to appreciate everyone coming on. I appreciate your interest. If we don't have any other questions from people, or let me ask that in a different way. Do we have any other questions that anyone has? We'll follow up with an email, and then we'll also post on our website, coachesforgood.com. You may notice behind us, we have our new logos, and we have an entirely new look for the organization as part of our first anniversary. If you go onto our website, I think it looks amazing. The guys who did it for us, who volunteered to do it for us, I think did an incredible job with the branding and everything. So we will post a recording of this webinar, and we'll also post more details about this project on the website, and then we'll follow up with emails to the presidents of the ICF chapters as well. So again, our website is coachesforgood.com. And just thank you again for all of your support, your interest in being with us. And we are super excited about this opportunity, and there are more in the future. And I think it's just going to get bigger and better. So stay tuned. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.